Hi, my name is Pam Nurse, and I am the Executive Director of the Federation. It is an honor to work for an organization that was built by groundbreakers and trailblazers who refused to accept the status quo. These giants laid the foundation for everything we do today. When my brother was a child, his school informed my parents that he was uneducable. After years of failure, he was sent home from school permanently. He was 9 years old. This would not happen today because of the people we are honoring tonight who stood up for children's right to a free and appropriate public education in Massachusetts and nationwide. The Federation's founders and early partners pushed for Chapter 766 and the federal legislation that would become IDEA. They knew that children like my brother could do better if given the chance. Here are some of their stories.
During the 1950s to the 1970s, the landscape for disabled children in public schools was vastly different. Many children with disabilities were excluded from mainstream classrooms, and specialized services were limited or non-existent.
I was involved with the Coalition for Special Education, forerunner for the Federation for Children with Special Needs. The situation for kids was so dire, and there were so many horrendous things that were happening, or things that weren't happening that should have been.
Before 766, one of the indicators of a real problem, and one of the reasons why the Advisory Council on Education was created and the Task Force on Children Out of School came together, was that problems were being identified statewide. We had a formula for building a coalition, sending out this much longer bill to all of the stakeholders we could think of. Inviting them to the State House must have been 7 or 8 meetings with the room filled with people, and watching folks duke it out.
The passage of Chapter 766 in Massachusetts marked a monumental milestone in the realm of special education. Enacted in 1972, this groundbreaking legislation mandated comprehensive reforms to ensure equal educational opportunities for students with disabilities.
Young parents like me thought, now that we've passed the legislation, we'll all just go home and, go back to our regular lives, take care of our kids. We soon figured out we really needed to begin sharing information about the opportunities for other families. So that's what became the Federation.
The Federation for Children with Special Needs was founded in 1974 by parents of children with disabilities, devoted to increasing and enhancing education and life opportunities for children and youth with disabilities. Our pioneering founder and executive director, Martha Ziegler, has been called the greatest advocate of all time. By quickly connecting with Harvey Liebergott, a federal grant officer at what is today known as the Department of Education Office of Special Education, she was able to secure funding for our work. The Federation became the first special education parent information and training center in the nation. We found another champion in the Department of Education, Project Officer Jack Tringo, with his enthusiastic support. The model we piloted expanded to every state in the country and Puerto Rico.
There's several of us who are listed as co-founders of the Federation. Definitely, Martha was the driving force. She just had a vision, and she leaped right in, and we followed along, doing as best we could to keep up. She didn't see the fact that we had no experience. She saw as absolutely no barrier. She said, "You live these issues every day. You know more than they do."
We owe so much to the giants who laid the foundation, the trailblazers who led with passion, and the tireless advocates who refused to give up on access and opportunity for every child. Soon after the Federation was founded, staff members realized that families were essential to children's outcomes, not only in education, but in healthcare, human services, and the life of the community. They also realized that we needed to widen our circle to welcome and include all families.
Patricia Blake and Beverly Graham were among our founding staff, providing critical family support and training services. Noreen Curran became an expert in the field that she helped to establish special education advocacy, going on to become a leader and mentor to countless others. Phyllis Sneerson developed the Parent Consultant Training Institute as an intensive training that continues to this day. Nancy Chapman and Janet Voss, two other founding visionaries, launched the early versions of Newsline, establishing a public presence for the Federation and reputation as a resource for families with children with disabilities.
Founding allies and co-authors of Chapter 766, Larry Cohen and Bob Crabtree, led our board of directors and contributed their legal expertise to Newsline and all of our trainings.
Nora Wells and Barbara Popper were vocal advocates for family-centered healthcare. Together, they founded Family Voices, which grew to a national organization and grassroots network for families and youth with special healthcare needs.
When I was a baby and I woke up one morning with this crooked eye, and my mother took me to the hospital. And in those days, parents weren't allowed to stay with their children in the hospital. My mother said, well, absolutely, I'm not leaving my baby alone in the hospital. I'm staying. And they gave her such a hard time, and there were no beds. She had to sleep in a chair, and nobody was very welcoming. A couple of days into the hospital stay, a nurse came into the room to administer an eye drop into my eye. And my mother was really alarmed because I had this reaction to the eye drop, which it seemed like it was really painful. And my mother was concerned. Later, I ended up with a paralyzed nerve and no vision in my right eye. My mother felt that if she hadn't been there, nobody would have noticed that there was a problem. And her idea was that that parent is going to be so much more sensitive to their needs and aware of their needs than any nurse or doctor who doesn't know the child.
Barbara Popper and Nora Wells truly transformed the way families are treated within the healthcare systems. Over time, their efforts would influence policy at the federal level, including being brought in to advise the Clinton administration on the importance of health insurance coverage for all families. Nora Wells led Family Voices until her recent retirement. Rogera Robinson, Sandy Blaines, Diana Rocha were the first staff hired specifically to connect with, support, and empower cultural and language diverse families. Their efforts demonstrated that when we say all families, we at the Federation truly mean all families.
Terry McLaughlin developed the first Federation program supporting youth transitioning from special education to adult life.
Martha Ziegler remained as executive director until her retirement, when Richard Roberson stepped in to lead the Federation into the 21st century. He would go on to serve more than 2 decades.
They were in the process of moving to a new executive director position. After Martha was reaching the end of her career of some 23 or 24 years. Dan Heffernan was the person who had agreed to lead executive director. He became chairman of the board of the Federation and remained in that position for a number of years. My interests at that time were, one, a recognition of those who had founded the Federation, particularly Martha and Betsy Anderson, honoring the legacy of what they had envisioned and established. But also there was a need for organizational development to ensure that the Federation would be able to have a lasting legacy.
Another longtime organizational leader was John Sullivan. In his 24 years at the Federation, John Sullivan developed the Federation's online presence and built our Visions of Community Conference into the state's largest gathering for the disability community.
When I think about the Visions of Community Conference, it's empowerment. it brings together such a wide group of people and gets sort of all kind of bulked up on different workshops and meeting with people and seeing some of the exhibitors and just connecting with people and presenting it in multiple languages and workshops. It's just an incredible experience. And then seeing it it's not just parents there, it's teachers there too. It's a day of bringing people together.
The Federation mission and focus has always been about empowering people from a grassroots level, from the families themselves, and giving them not only the tools but the confidence to feel that they could achieve good results for their children.
We were so busy day to day. We had so many challenges, so many pressures, so much that we needed to be doing. Plus, we were raising our own kids. I don't think we even imagined, how gigantic, the Federation would become and how lasting it would be.
It's a sense of community in which people share and discover that they are not alone with the circumstance that they're faced with, and therefore they also build strength from knowing that they are not isolated. Even at times they feel that way.
From groundbreaking family engagement initiatives to life-changing trainings and support, we continue to champion every child's right to be included in the full life of their community. We are here when families need us. Tens of thousands of families come to us each year for information, training, and support. And we work with professionals to promote the importance of family engagement in ensuring children's growth and well-being. The school that barred my brother wasn't doing so out of malice. They did it because they didn't know better and couldn't at that time even imagine better. It's been 50 years since IDEA recognized children's right to a free and appropriate public education. Yet we know we are still not meeting that very basic goal. Our work remains urgent. Today's students can't wait another 50 years for the promise of IDEA to be realized. Inspired by the giants who came before us, the Federation will continue our life-changing work. Families and children are counting on us.